that bill is passed. Over $900 billion in Medicaid cuts. SNAP is being cut. Student loans, Pell Grants.
This bill is a deal with the devil. President Trump, you're either being lied to or you are lying to the American people.
Donald Trump's big, beautiful tax bill. This single piece of legislation will cause the largest wealth transfer from the poor to the rich in U.S. history.
Barack Obama once said, elections have consequences. And I say to the American people, elections have consequences.
Black people have equated the big, beautiful tax bill to colonization. That this is no different from the times back in the day where they came in black people's spaces and made sure black people were the lowest when it comes to classism, and they made their way up on the ladder. We are looking at America right now, ladies and gentlemen, where the rich is going to stay rich and the poor is going to be poor. Rest, literally. And a lot of MAGA, I feel like maybe in the beginning they didn't understand it, but I don't know. Thank God. It feels like black people understood this kind of like psychology from the beginning.
In my opinion, one of the biggest scams in American political history is for people that live like this, and like this, and like this, and like this, like this, and for people that look like this to believe that a person that lives like this and travels like this gives a fuck about your well-being.
In the very first beginning, when Trump started his term, there's a black man who came on the internet and he said, real estate developers are thieves. They are all about business. They don't have time for you, poor people. Do you think they're going to waste their time on you who does not have a bigger cut of a deal? Do you think they're going to leave a billionaire? Which makes sense now. Big, beautiful bill. We make the rich richer. We tax them less. And you, who is poor, we tax you so you make the rich richer. As if they're not rich are richest now.
CBO has reported that it's going to raise our debt, our national debt, by $3.3 trillion. $3.3 trillion. At least 12 million will be unenrolled from Medicare and Medicaid. AI regulations loosened as it rolls back environmental protections for everyone on this continent. ICE becoming the 8th largest police force on this planet. Billions of dollars of unmarked, unbadged agents and bounty hunters in civilian clothes picking up and detaining civilians on the street to send them to Alligator Alcatraz, which was built in less than 30 days flat. That's flooding as Trump and Republicans are cheering this concentration camp. The same Republicans, the same MAGA assholes, the same asshats that said that Roe v. Wade was an offense against God, but not women bleeding to death in the parking lots of emergency rooms because doctors refuse to treat them as they are miscarrying because they have the conviction of the Hippocratic Oath. Until U.S. aid has been shuttered, calling condemnation from both former Presidents Bush and Obama. As thousands of people are going to die. Until you have billionaires from technology to groceries to entertainment who endorsed this bill. Billionaires chosen over citizens by the U.S. government to continue to keep us starving, sick, poor and dying just so the racist wealthy can continue to make money off of our labor and now our death. Until what? I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to do. A woman had to break down the big beautiful tax bill using blocks, using a children's play toy to impress upon you the kind of disastrous consequences that the big beautiful bill will allow AI to do.
We need to all come together. That's not going to happen. I'm pointing fingers. I don't know what y'all going to do, but I'm pointing fingers because there are specific people who are responsible for this. To all the people that rallied behind Trump during this election blindly because of their overwhelming support for all of the isms, misogyny, bigotry, and all of those things, you are to blame. You're to blame. You're going to be the reason that millions of Americans no longer have access to health care or food. To all the people who voted for him because you thought he was talking to you when he said that there would be financial gain, but you're now realizing that he's actually talking about the people who are already rich, absent of the color of your skin, you are to blame. To all the people who refused to vote for Kamala Harris because she was a black woman, and let's call a spade, and you could not see a black woman or a woman at that running the country, you are to blame. To all the people who thought they were standing on business or trying to be divisive by convincing people not to vote for Kamala Harris because you believe she supports genocide abroad, but you did not think about what would actually happen inside the country that you currently live in, where plenty of marginalized people are not eating and are missing out on healthcare every day, you are to blame.
Barack Obama once said, elections have consequences. And I say to the American people, elections have consequences. This big, beautiful bill is the sum total of everything we warned Trump supporters about. So many of you were voting on emotion, but not facts. You were voting on what you felt, not what was known, not what was given. The Republican Party, for Christ's sake, wrote out an entire book called Project 2025, a roadmap to what it is they wanted to achieve once they obtained power. And many of you refused to read it. Many of you refused to understand the content that was in that book. And now, because of your ignorance, you're now in a situation where you have a president that you supported who is doing everything in his power to uproot y'all's lives. This big, beautiful bill strips the very programs that many Trump supporters benefit from, and also those who did not vote for Donald Trump. Your white, uneducated Americans who live in rural areas, you guys are going to be hurting soon. That hospital that exists in your small town is about to be stripped clean, because it received a lot of government subsidies to stay open. That way you didn't have to drive miles and miles and miles to the next hospital. Now you won't have that anymore. Those hospitals will now close. This is why it's so important to vote based off of facts and not your opinion, not your emotions, and not what you feel. Because you end up in situations like this. And I say again, my fellow Americans, elections have consequences. And this is a consequence of the vote you all casted in November of last year. Live with it.
So the big, beautiful bill was passed, and I saw this tweet, and it made so much sense. And, of course, the whole, ICE thing that they have going on. And somebody was like, why are certain Republicans so happy that immigrants are going to be eaten by alligators? And then somebody responded, was like, these were the same people that would lynch us and then go to church. So honestly, that's why I'm just like, okay, a lot of this stuff is now making sense, because I think for some reason we forget about history and forget about stuff that was happening and how they used religion. They used Christianity. They've always been these type of people, you know what I'm saying? Like they just doing what their ancestors did. That is literally what's happening. That's why it's like I'm at a place where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm no longer shook, because certain things I'll be like, dang, they really doing this? They really feel this way? They're their ancestors' children, their ancestors' people, you know.
Regardless of who you voted for or where you fall on the political spectrum, I need you to hear what I have to say and receive it with an open heart and open mind, because it's not going to only affect you, but it's going to affect millions of your fellow Americans. This is why the big beautiful bill is going to hurt the working, middle, and lower class. As far as housing, they're going to cut rental assistance, Section 8, and homelessness prevention. If you're a low-income family, a veteran, or a single parent, good luck with finding safe and stable housing. These cuts to housing include HUD programs, Section 8 vouchers, and emergency rental assistance. This impacts families already struggling with rent hikes, and they will face longer wait lists or lose their support. Homelessness is likely to rise, especially for single parents, veterans, and low-income seniors. Landlords in low-income areas may evict faster, knowing subsidies won't come through, and this hurts the working-class families, disabled individuals, unhoused people, immigrants, and unsubsidized housing. Up next, how will it affect food stamps and WIC? They're gone for millions. So if you're working full-time and still rely on SNAP to feed your kids, too bad, babes. You're out. Reductions in SNAP, food stamps, WIC, all those programs, they're being cut. Eligibility thresholds are tightening and benefits are shrinking. This affects millions who may get kicked off of food assistance or receive less, even if they're working full-time. Families with kids will see grocery budgets stretched a little thinner, and WIC cuts means fewer resources for pregnant women, babies, and toddlers. This not only hurts single parents, but immigrant families, gig workers, students with kids, and the elderly. As far as healthcare, Medicaid is getting gutted. That means more uninsured workers, higher medical debt, and fewer mental health resources. If you beat cancer like I did, or live with a chronic illness, they just made staying alive more expensive. This bill causes healthcare program rollbacks. What's being cut is Medicaid expansion and subsidies from the ACA. This impacts low-wage workers who rely on Medicaid, who will then become uninsured or forced into private plans that they cannot afford. Preventative care, mental health services, and prescriptions will become inaccessible. This mainly hurts immigrants, low-income workers, cancer survivors, or people with chronic illnesses. As far as education, they're attacking Pell Grants and student loan relief. First-generation students, immigrants, and parents who are trying to go back to school, the path for a better future for yourself or your family just got that much harder. In relation to the education access, this is what is going to be cut or restricted. Federal Pell Grants, student loan forgiveness programs, funding for public colleges, and adult education. This makes it to where education becomes even harder to access without debt, and immigrants and first-generation students lose their shot at an upward mobility. Adult learners, like parents going back to school, are now going to face more barriers. This hurts the working-class students, DACA recipients, parents returning to school, and people trying to skill up to escape poverty. I know this is one of the biggest ones, but the tax cut for the wealthy and corporate welfare, sweet merciful Jesus. While they're slashing aid, this is what they're doing. Expanding tax loopholes for billionaires, lowering corporate tax rates, deregulating industries that exploit labor. Need I go on? In layman's terms, and in order to translate for the people in the back who are just not getting it, tax cuts for billionaires are untouched. Corporate loopholes are still wide open. They're not cutting waste. They're cutting people like us. They're balancing the budget on the backs of the poor while rewarding the already rich. This is why it matters. This bill isn't about cutting waste. It's about cutting people out of basic dignity. It undermines economic mobility, education access, food security, healthcare equity, human rights for immigrants, and working families. It is a direct blow to the working, middle, and lower class. But here's the thing. This isn't the end. It's a wake-up call. Talk about it. Share this. Show up where it counts. Because we deserve more than survival. We deserve a system that serves us, not one that buries us while smiling. If you stayed to the end of the video, please interact with it in any way. Repost, comment, like, share, because this needs to get out to people like us. A lot of people are not aware of what's happening behind the scenes because they're too distracted. And on top of this, many Americans who voted for the talking orange believe that rules for thee and not for me is how things are going to play out. And it's just not. There are many Americans who are waking up to find out that their lives are going to be impacted by this. Many of them are effing around and finding out the hard way, as they should. But unfortunately, millions of other Americans are going to be impacted by the choices that they have made.
I agree with putting a cap on student loans because medical school is way too expensive. That's not how this works. The cost of medical school is not going to go down just because they put a cap on student loans. You know what's going to happen? Medical students aren't going to be able to take out student loans in order to go to medical school. We're going to have way less doctors because people aren't going to medical school because they can't afford it. And that's going to lead to a rise in the physician shortage that we already have. Entertain you guys' silly thought process for 5 quick seconds. Say, sure, it might lead to a decrease in the cost of medical school. When? Oh, zoom out. Look at the big picture. When? At these effects that are going into play in 2026, medical schools are going to say, oh, let's drop the cost. No, that's not going to happen. Thing is, the people that can't afford to go to medical school, and I know there are people who go to medical school with zero debt because their parents can afford to pay for it. Those people will be front and center to go to medical school, while people like myself who can't afford it and who had to take out loans will be left behind trying to figure out how to make this work. Be enough people that are going to be discouraged and won't be able to go. You guys are silly. You guys make excuses for every single thing. This is a stupid bill. Let's be honest. Let's be clear. It's dumb.
It's about to be the biggest law enforcement group in the country, ICE. There's $100 trillion billion going to the defense, and the 1% is about to live their best life like they've been doing this whole time. Hospitals are about to start shutting down, which some of them have already prepared to start shutting down. It's going to be harder for a lot of people now. A lot of people are about to die, and that's not even a joke. And it makes me sad because a lot of y'all MAGA people, y'all voted for this man because he was a white man and he had how many felonies and how many failed businesses, but it didn't matter. Because I would rather vote for the white man who has no experience and is not here for the whole American body than vote for a black woman who's had the experience her whole life and actually wanted us to do better. Wanted better for America. And for all the Republicans, y'all spineless POSs, y'all, I hope y'all get unseated. I really do.